Are you a hustler? Do you feel that working hard is keeping you from bodily pleasure? Stay tuned because in this episode, I'm going to share with you three somatic movement tips to come back to embody your natural sensuality. This is Candia Raquel. I am a Mexican sensualist, scientist, and artist that could only eat tacos for the rest of life. And you are at the Sensual Sessions Podcast, the place to explore sensing pleasure through your senses and moving in a way that it's free from inhibition and full of self expression. So, we're gonna begin by meeting your nervous system where it's at and gently guiding it through these steps to fully embody sensual pleasure. But first, let me share with you my story so you know where I'm coming from. I entered the first semester of biology believing that it was all going to be super whimsy, catering to plants and observing animals, but I was mistaken. I faced subjects like biochemistry, calculus, statistics, like hardcore science, and I failed out of eight subjects. Like that was like the frontal proof that I was on the wrong track. But I said, no, I I want to do this. So I logged in. And the next semester, I registered myself into 15 classes. The regular 8 classes plus the 7 that I failed. And I was at risk of being kicked out of university. And I passed them all. I said, no more drugs, no more psychedelic trance rave parties, no more boyfriends. Like, this is it. And I also doubled down in dance training. I am a professional dancer as well. And somehow, this is like my personality. I identify myself as a survivor and as a warrior. And these have served me well for most of my life. You'll see the moment of my downfall briefly. So, when I was 28, I had already opened my Pilates studio. I made my first million. The next year, I got the single franchise for the whole country from the biggest Pilates worldwide brand and began giving Pilates teacher trainings. Fast forward to 2016, I was delivering wellness programs to secretaries of state in the government. We made wonderful progress in improving the quality of life, wellness, diminishing problems like heart attacks, insomnia, digestive issues, etc. And I had also huge corporate contracts. And it's all because of this personality trait of being a hustler. Like, I'm gonna make this work. And like, I put my skin in the game. And that's great. But there was a moment when I was like completely exhausted after giving a Pilates teacher training at my studio in Mexico City, like teaching for 10 hours straight, already 2 weeks in. And I was so fatigued that as expected, my cognitive function was diminished, that I stumbled and fell from the stairs. And this is not expected from like a master teacher, trainer in Pilates, or a professional dancer, but that's what fatigue makes your nervous system do. Like you stop functioning optimally. And it turned out to be a bad spinal injury. Still to this day, I have a spinal muscle part detached from a lumbar vertebra, a part of the psoas muscle. So that was and still is serious. And the following week, I found myself giving this super high level Pilates training for aspiring teachers, sitting on a wheelchair and just dictating the movements. And it was a hard blow of reality and a really humbling experience to try to force myself through pain in order to stand up and be a role model of of determination, only to find that pain sat me back down. Like, oh, you're gonna learn humbleness right here now, Candia. And it was super tough. And there was a moment that I found my limit. I found that no, I cannot do everything and anything and whenever I want. Perhaps for the first time in my life, I saw how at the core of my being I was using willpower as a compensation for a fundamental lack of skill. See, because when you have built with delicacy every step of the journey, anything that you do comes as a second nature. That's the natural way. That's how we learned to walk by ourselves. No one taught us how to walk. We discovered how to walk as babies, doing baby movements, following our nature. And it's like this little step by step threading of delicacy of a journey that I was missing as part of my identity. I was like, no, I'm gonna knuckle down and I'm gonna make this happen. Even if it's forcefully, even if I have to put the skin out, even if I have to suffer, like I am all in the game, and if there's no pain, there's no gain. That was my mentality until pain taught me how wrong I was. So, in this humbling moment of not being able to force myself into standing up and demonstrating the Pilates exercises to my students and being like secluded in a goddamn wheelchair, I kinda give up in a certain way of like, okay, I surrender this. I cannot defeat this monster, at least not this way. Is way more powerful than me, pain, and this injury. So I kind of like retreat into a corner of myself where at least breathing was less painful. It's almost like when you have a bad neck cramp because you slept with a crooked pillow or something, and the next day you cannot move the head, not even a millimeter, because the pain is unbearable, and you just like find a way where pain eases and maybe pain fades away. And from then, I I began like to, with utter delicacy, move in such a way that almost intuitively I knew would be pleasurable. So I started like respecting pain, moving away from pain, and only moving in a way that I would feel that it would be good for my body. And following that trace of no pain and actual pleasure in moving, I found a trail within my own bodily map of joints and muscles that I could stand again and walk again and get my life back. And this path is a sensual path, is a path of moving in a way that feels pleasurable and that you are free from the inhibitions of all those parasitic tensions. And the injury is still there. I have the piece of steak hanging from my back. And if I don't pay attention and I have bad posture recording this episode, I know I'm gonna be in very bad disabling pain for 3 weeks. So I have become like a sensualist by force. Like there's no other choice. Either I listen to my body and I move carefully, or I will end up back disabled with pain because I have an injury that will never heal. And that injury was 100% preventable. Had I listened to my body, had I stopped before I was fatigued, had I stopped when I was already fatigued, should I stayed 1 hour more in my studio just to regroup myself before going to home? But no, I kept on pushing because that was my hustler modus operandi. So here, finally, I'm gonna share with you 3 steps that will help you not only prevent those an injury like that because of this mentality of no pain, no gain, but these 3 steps that are very practical will help you one and again come back to the sensations of your body so you can listen and use this information to guide your journey through life. So I invite you to use pleasure as a compass to navigate your journey and go only as far as it's pleasurable. Use this compass to protect yourself from injury. And how you do that? By listening very respectfully the wake up call of pain. Because pain is a survival mechanism, fundamental for us, that we need to listen. Not to keep on the road of pain as this hustle culture of us glorifies, but on the contrary, to use it as a big red stop light so we can recalibrate our navigation and move in a better, more health affirming way. Okay? So the thing is that when we are in hustle mode, as I was, we we are in survival mode. Like I was faced with being a university dropout or knuckling down and cutting off a lot of distractions in my life and getting ahead in the next semester of science at biology faculty, which is what I did. But it was like a big sacrifice. And then I kept on that track, like always going for more and more and more and kicking the goalpost forward, which is what we do, hustlers. And this becomes not only an attitude or a personality trait, but a neurological organization that becomes like crystallized by glue, or you can say myelinized as a learning pattern. And that's why we work this way often on autopilot. So we have to meet the nervous system where it's at in survival mode, hustling, 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 overworking, answering emails on vacations, checking your phone for work stuff at 10 p.m. on a Sunday, and very gently come back to our own sensitivity to take the nervous system back to balance, what we call in science homeostasis. We want to unload the allostatic ways of the nervous system and come back to homeostasis, where we can, yes, go to survival mode when it's necessary, but resume our way back into a better functioning of the nervous system using other areas of the brain. And for this is very important sensuality. So the three tools are, the first one is to prepare to win. So that's what our hustle personality wants. So, okay, first is prepare to win, but seriously. The second step is to slow down, and the third step is to rest. So let's begin with step number one, which is preparing to win, which is a mindset shift. So when we are in survival mode, we are using an area of our brain that is very ancestral, the amygdala, that its main function is to answer the question, is this gonna kill us? And it triggers us into action, into survival mode, like fighting or freezing or flighting, running away. And we have like these cortisol spikes, adrenaline, and a huge expense of glucose that is all very expensive for our system. And the thing here is that living in this state of urgency is completely expensive, physiologically speaking, and it's not conductive through to success. Survival mode only works on the immediate moment, like answering last minute things and leaving things to the end so you get like the adrenaline to get yourself going. So we want to introduce the element of preparation. This is why we want to prepare to win. Not win out of improvisation and rush, but prepare to win because the idea of preparation and everything that preparation involves requires us to send brain instead of to the we take the blood out from the amygdala and we send the blood to the prefrontal lobes, that is the area of the brain in charge of impulse control, emotional regulation, complex decision making, and planning for the future. So when we prepare to win, we are seeing ourselves projected in the future and also exerting this ability to set the steps from the like reverse engineering to this moment. And by being in this mode, we our whole physiology like becomes like more pliable. It's easier to negotiate with ourselves, like, okay, A or B, which is more convenient. It's not like going like a crazy out of the first door that you see because you're in survival mode, or spending money like crazy or whatever, but like being able to see which options that you have. And I know this sounds more strategic than sensual, but I'm gonna tell you where's the sensuality here. So I want you to use the prefrontal cortex of your brain, this area of planning for the future, just for one simple thing, that is time blocking for idleness. So I want you to use this part of your brain to shift away from survival mode, which is our hustle mentality, get to the part of the brain that will actually make you be successful, and use that part of your brain to block time to do nothing. So I really want you to see that you grab your calendar. And I know this is very boring, but I want you to see your calendar and block time on Tuesdays for doing nothing. Idle time. For for whatever, for daydreaming, chilling, just contemplating the spider webs in the corner of the ceiling and the wall. Okay? So you're gonna set time in your schedule for idle. Then we go to step number 2, which is slowing down. And this builds up on the previous. This has to do with understanding that more is not always better. Though our hustle culture will yell at us that we need to go for more, 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 and more, and never settle for less. And like after you have a big win, go for the biggest win. Like don't stay there. Don't think small because otherwise you're a mediocre, whatever. Well, that's the hustle culture mentality. And it's very important to understand that more is not always better. Remember, I fell from the stairs out of overdoing my effort, out of pushing myself for more until my body couldn't give anymore and it broke. I have a broken muscle in the spine. And a good image of this is with seasoning your food. If you put too much salt into the crock pot, you will ruin the whole kilo of beans. So you will have to throw away your chili because there's no solution if it's over salted. So we want to do the opposite. We want to slow down and do a little less. And the biological reason behind this is that fatigue diminishes cognitive function. I was so fatigued that I couldn't coordinate my professional ballet dancer legs to walk down a stair and I fell. So this has to do, slowing down will create room for you to anticipate and make a decision with your prefrontal cortex before it's too late. So slowing down means stopping before you're tired, stopping the seasoning of your meal before it's over salted, doing a little bit less instead of a little bit more. And how do you do that in a practical way? Well, here's the slow down tip in action. Make a check-in with your clock. 6 a.m., 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m. Like every 3 hours, measure how you're doing in every way. Like, okay, I had a terrible night's sleep. You realize when you wake up at 6, 7, or at 5, and then you see, let me see what can I do in this 3 hour window of time to feel better and see how am I doing in my next check-in at 9 p.m. I mean 9 a.m. And with the practice, you will learn, first off, you will notice how beautifully adaptable you are as a biological system, that you could have a terrible start of your day, and by 3 p.m., like, okay, I think I can wrap this in a great way. I'm doing good. And you keep going and you say, like, I think I'm doing good, but if I force myself, I'm gonna be fatigued by 6 p.m. So I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna reshuffle my tasks to support my future self in 3 hours. And that's how you do that. That's how you practice slowing down. So you see, all of this is, we are using different areas of our brain and nervous system, creating room for us to breathe a little bit. And so we are less focused externally on survival, and we can have this, what it's called, structural coupling in the neuroscience of cognition. We can have this structural coupling between our inner world and the external world to make it like a more synergic flow. Like I organize my inner world and my outer world simultaneously to make everything more efficient. And everything more efficient comes from this listening to yourself. And then we come to the tip number 3, that is rest. And I know hustle culture tell us that rest is for the lazy and that we will have enough time to rest in the grave, as Robert De Niro says, and my grandpa also used to say. But the truth is that rest is the counterpart of survival mode. We have the rest and digest mode of the parasympathetic nervous system, and we have the survival mode of the sympathetic nervous system. And we need both. It's like night and day. And I know we can have the lights on and the computer on all night long and be working ourselves crazy. And that will be the outcome, driving yourself mad or ending with a bad injury in your spine for the rest of your life. Don't do that. It's useless. So you need a little bit rebellion here to rest, because you need to put guilt aside, which means putting all the noise of the judgment in our culture to the side, and daring not to seek that external approval, at least for a little bit, and say, it's me who decides to rest. And again, this time, this space to rest is a little bit the outcome of the two previous tips of preparing to win, because you prepared the the time in your schedule to rest, and then you even blocked time for like active rest, idleness in the middle of the day or in the afternoon, whatever. And then here, in in the practice of rest, you shift into this state of receiving. Instead of doing, instead of being active and making everything happen, rest has to do with being receptive and letting things happen, and has a very strong core of trust, especially in yourself, and humility and appreciation. It has to do with the trust that you deserve the fruits of your hard work, the trust that there's more where it came from that came from, that the tree will bloom again, and that the seeds that you planted recently will sprout. So, this state of receptivity motivates this other side of our autonomic nervous system, that is a parasympathetic nervous system. And we need parasympathetic dominance to fully embody sensual pleasure, along many other important things like digestion, uh, repair of mm, strained tissues in the body, self maintenance, activation of the pelvic floor, for example. That's a very important one, super important for bladder control and everything that has to do with reflexes, the orgasmic reflex, intimate pleasure. This is very important. Rest is of utmost importance. And I feel this is the most important counterpart that we miss when we are in this hustle modus operandi. The other part of like night and day. We need the other part. We need the part of non-doing, the part of letting the muddy water settle so we can see with clarity, the letting things run its course, letting the seeds we planted sprout and grow naturally without us interfering in the process, but rather by being aware of what's going on so we can then take action in the right moment. This is what also sensuality allows us strategically. It's a state of awareness, of total awareness of the present in your flesh and in your surroundings. It's not a slouchy, sluggish state. It's a state of vitality, vibrancy, and presence, embodied presence, rather than discursive thinking and interpretation. No, it's raw, naked presence in the here and in the now. And a practical way to tap into sensual pleasure in this state of rest is sighting, like making an AH sound when you exhale. Because the longer the exhale, the easier it will be for your heart to lower its rhythm, and for the nervous system to shift to parasympathetic dominance. And as you do that, you will notice how pleasurable it feels, and also how you become more naturally expressive with that pleasure. When you sigh, there's a natural cadence to your movement that is sensual, it's pleasurable, and it's full of your bodily self expression. Like, you're not choreographing the sigh, you're just moving it along with the sigh. And it involves the totality of you. And if you continue sighing, you will notice that you kind of begin to be more in the awareness of your flesh in the present and less in the thinking of your mental discourse. And this is what we want. This is the counterpart. This is the embodiment of sensual pleasure. And you will realize that this is an aspect of your true nature. Because pleasure is just how health is physically experienced. When you're healthy, you're feeling pleasure in your existence. And that's why we take pleasure for granted. And there's like religion and taboos and hustle culture and etc. And we want to clean ourselves from all of that noise and reclaim pleasure as the compass that we look at to know where we are standing at in life, in our life, not just in your career life, but for real, as a body, in flesh. And as long as you are standing in pleasure, you will know that you are on the right track. And if you are ready to learn more about this, the Sensual Rest 4-week program is coming up, I think, in about 10 weeks. And in the meantime, I invite you to grab the free guide to awaken sensuality, and you will also get these episodes of the Sensual Sessions delivered weekly on your inbox. And uh, heads up when registrations for Central Rest opens up. So go grab the free guide to awaken sensuality. Is on my website. It's instant download in www.mynamecandiaraquel.com, which is www.candiaraquel.com. I'm sharing the link in the description of this episode as well. And until next time, do remember to take a look at pleasure and use it as your compass.